Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. I'm going to be going into spoilers, just a spoiler talk about the whole movie. I just saw it. But before I get to that, I will kind of give you a heads up when I'm going to go into spoilers. But just kind of little tiny non-spoilers, how did I feel about the movie? I thought the movie was great. It is legitimately a lot of fun. As something a lot of people will tell you, the action sequences are nuts. They're actually really, really good. But on top of that, it's just like this cast of characters, understanding who they are, and it's also understanding how they got to where they are. It's such an interesting tale, I think, and it's just Black Mask is a very interesting villain because he can be kind of kooky yet scary at the same time, and I think that's such an interesting element for a villain like that. And it's actually really interesting. Like, things that play out in the sense of, like, I thought it, because they had made it kind of clear that this wasn't a team-up movie, and that's super true. I'll kind of elaborate more on that in spoilers, but in all honesty, I think it is legitimately a fun time. Obviously, like, Harley does kind of take the biggest focus. Truth be told, the movie is told from her perspective, and I think they do some really interesting things with that, so that's something to keep in mind. But like I said, if you were on the fence for whatever reason, like, I'm not sure if I should watch this, you should watch this movie. It's really good. And it just immediately makes me think, like, okay, so what's the future for Harley look like? And not just her, everyone else in the movie, like the Birds of Prey, like what their future is going to look like going forward, so stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, if you have not seen this movie, I highly recommend you check out this movie. It is really, really good. Other than that, I will be going forward, I will be going into full-blown spoilers. So if you have not seen the movie, then don't watch this, because like I said, I will be spoiling. So you have been warned. Okay, so obviously because of the trailers and stuff like that, I went into this movie knowing a lot of interesting things about why each of the Birds of Prey is being hunted by Black Mask. What I thought was really interesting, I also kind of didn't expect us to get backstory on him, knowing that he's kind of from a rich family, but he kind of got booted out of the family, and that legitimately everything he is doing. Because once again, I'm loving that it isn't just that one part we saw in the trailer. I love that Harley does kind of dip into her, like, Quinzel bag of, like, her psychiatrist or bag of kind of like psychoanalyzing people. I love that actually pops up from time to time, because psychoanalyzing Black Mask would be like, oh, I know you're doing all this because you're, like, literally he's like trying to say something. She's like, oh God, I know exactly what you're going to do. You want to try and torture me for information and blah, 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 blah. Like, she kind of reads him like, oh my God, you're so predictable. You're so textbook. She doesn't say that, but she kind of reads him like that. And I think that's such a fascinating element to it. But speaking of Harley herself, I thought it was, for one, I love the opening, the little animated kind of like quickly, in case you don't know Harley Quinzel's story. Now, it's actually kind of interesting, like her dad sold her and then she kept coming back. It's like he couldn't get rid of her, dropped her off at like a church or whatever, which is, well, and not really a church, but like, she was raised by nuns and stuff like that, which is so interesting. Harley turning out the way she did, you would have never thought she had a background like that. So I thought that was kind of fascinating. As someone, like, I know bits and pieces of Harley's lore just because of, stuff we picked up over the years. Obviously, I'm not that well versed in the comic books, but I wonder, is that something they did just for the movie, or is that actually true to her story? Because I know the whole, like, becoming a doctor and, going to Arkham, meeting the Joker and falling in love and everything. So, because obviously they even take stuff from Suicide Squad, which this is in fact built off of Suicide Squad, because I love that, like, when she was in GCPD, she ends up looking, it's like, oh, hey, I know that guy. It was a picture of Captain Boomerang. I couldn't remember his name for a second, but I was like, oh, I like that. And she even references it when she gives a breakdown of, like, her backstory to Cassandra. Like, she references stuff of, like, yeah, I got a bomb in my neck, and it's like, yeah. So they are acknowledging that Suicide Squad happened. Granted, I think it's kind of neat too. We never actually get to find out how, like, she ended up getting out of that whole situation, But regardless, obviously, like, I like the fact is Harley, obviously her breakup with the Joker, she's, it's been hitting her pretty hard. And I like the fact is that it's not just how it affects Harley on an emotional level, how it affects her in the grand scheme of things, because it's something that I talked about in the trailers where I was like, oh yeah, it looks like Harley's got to try and prove herself, because legitimately anytime, like, even Black Mask is like, oh, so when's Mr. J going to get here, when Joker going to get here? It's like, no, don't worry about it, It's because she hadn't told anyone that her and the Joker broke up, because, like, she's able to kind of do whatever she wants to, because it's like, oh, Mr. J's got my back, his reputation precedes him, so it's like, anything I do, I don't have to worry about because Mr. J has my back. I did love the fact is, it's like, oh, this is your ex, and she's like, yeah, who is he? Wait, you don't know? this is Mr. J, the clown prince of crime and stuff like that. And I love that Cassandra didn't know. It's like, it's kind of like, how do you live in Gotham and not know who Joker is? But I think that's just kind of I'm sure it helps Harley, because for her it's like, well, it's kind of a middle finger to the fact is that, like, oh, like, we broke up. What I really love about that breakup though is because of that, like, literally everyone in Gotham, including Black Mask, is gunning for her, because the fact of the matter is, it's like, oh, you had Joker's protection, now you're no longer protected. Wait, Harley's free game because the Joker's not going to care anymore because they broke up? Hell yeah. And I love that being like what kind of gets her mixed up in all of this. It's also interesting too, because circling back to the more emotional side of things, her being kind of a wreck, it's so interesting because I feel like, more often than not, like, obviously, she's kind of Mr. J's shadow, but I kind of see her like so broken down and almost normal and getting drunk and stuff like that. And it's so interesting too, because Harley got drunk and kind of acted out, like, it literally set off a set of like events that led to this whole thing going down, because she took the driver out of the way. Eventually Black Canary had to take over, and that brought Montoya into like Canary's life, because Canary got mixed up with Harley, and because Black Mask saw her fighting to protect Harley, and like, it's a long list of just everything gets jumbled together, but it all starts with Harley. And I do appreciate it, because I know some people had said like, oh, they thought it was kind of messy, like how the story was told and stuff like that. Me personally, because it is from Harley's perspective, I really appreciate like the whole time jumping all over the place of like, oh, this was 4 minutes ago with Montoya. Oh wait, this was like a week ago. Like, I like the jumping around the time frame type of situation. It is interesting because my thought was like, okay, going into this, maybe like to prove herself, she's like, oh, look at me, I'm a criminal mastermind or something, like, because she even talks about in the intro, like, every step of the way that Joker's been there, like, she's been there too, like, but Joker kind of got all the credit and stuff like that, which that actually kind of applies in Montoya's case of like, the fact of the matter is her partner got to rise through the ranks. She did all the hard work. He reaped the benefits. And because of that, she's stuck as detective. So it's almost like no one in the precinct really listens to her to kind of crack jokes. Like, she seems more of an outsider at the GCPD and stuff. And so she's striving so hard to prove herself, And then you get to Black Canary, which we didn't learn too much about her, because a lot of her past is still kind of, especially like 100% of her connection to Black Mask. Because we ended up finding out that basically her mom died. It seems like her mom was all superheroes, because it seems like that's where she gets her canary cry in the first place, is from her mom. But it's like, because when Montoya shows up, it's like, oh, she knows exactly who she is. It's like, oh, your mom, like, she was a good person, like, you should kind of follow in her footsteps. But for her, it's like, no, I saw literally my mom died and no one was there. Like, she put so many other people's lives before her own, the whole complicated nature of being a hero. But once again, I'm not that familiar with Dinah's story. Only reason why, obviously, I'm familiar is because of Arrow, but obviously this is a very different Dinah in comparison to any of the Dinahs we ended up getting, whether it be Laurel or whether it be Dinah, the cop, but nevertheless, it seems like that's where that kind of struck. And I was wondering about that whole situation too, like the whole canary cry thing, like, because she doesn't really use it in the movie. When she's singing at the club and everything, you see the glass shatter and stuff like that. It makes me wonder, did Black Mask know about that? Because it didn't seem like anyone really knew except for Montoya. But like, the fact of the matter is not. I do like the fact is they held back. Literally, that canary cry is the one canary cry in the entire movie, because it seems like it's something she doesn't really use, because the moment she did it, but maybe it's just because she pushed herself, but I think it's probably because she doesn't use it that often, that it kind of takes a lot out of her. But the conversation I was also going to have is the fact of the matter is, like, well, because it seems like, once again, I'm not, it seems like metahumans, like that whole situation is hereditary. So it's like, you have a kid, your kid most likely has what you have. So, but it seems like she was kind of on her own after a while, and eventually Black Mask took her in. That's what I mean. That's the only bit we get about it. So it's kind of like she's always there because Black Mask wants to keep her close, because it's like, oh, my little canary, I took you in, and you're my little songbird, Which, you can even think about that even further. I don't think it really caught, because obviously, like, why does the cage bird singing, like, that whole, like, analogy kind of fits very nicely in this particular case, because obviously she was in a cage, for Black Mask, personal use. Then diving into Huntress, the fact of the matter is, I like that because I was wondering, like, why she was kind of doing what she's doing, but I love that they kind of give her, like, this, like, deadpan humor sometimes, especially because like it's like, oh, who is she? The crossbow killer, and then in the mirror she's practicing. Do you know who I am? No. All right. Do you know who I am? I love it. I thought that was such a neat little element, but also learning about her past, like understanding why she's going to the extremes that she did. Because I knew from the trailer, it's like, oh, you killed his BFF. I didn't realize that meant Zaz. I wouldn't have seen that coming. But the fact of the matter is, it's because Zaz was one of the people that was there that killed her family, like literally all of her family. Because what's interesting, because I guess for her, she didn't really care about the jewel. It's connected to her family, but the diamond is what I'm referencing. But like, it's not important enough for her. All she was focused on was revenge, and you know. And I just love that she kind of pops up and she seems so like serious and like, oh, you're such a badass. And then later on, you get moments of her like I said, in a mirror, being like, do you know what I like? And I like that they brought that to this character, that like she is very like serious, but then you add that element to it. I thought was kind of pretty nice. I don't think they really dived into Cassandra's situation either. Well, we know that she comes from like a complicated family home, like because Black Canary had walked by and was like, yo, take this money, go get yourself something to eat, just don't get mixed up in all of that, it's not worth it. But that's the fullest extent of it. So it's not like she doesn't have family, she has people, like what that relation is 100%, about like who was arguing with that, her mom and her boyfriend, or her mom and dad, whatever the case may be. She kind of like goes out, just, you know, you could make the argument the reason why she steals is just to kind of compensate for the fact is, maybe you could make it an argument that it's a cry for attention, maybe not, I don't know. But like I said, it's just so interesting to see how this all kind of, you know, circles back around to like bringing all these characters together. And what I was bringing up earlier about it not being a team up movie, I thought that was interesting because it literally doesn't become a team up movie until like the final act where they actually join forces. I was thinking that might be a bigger part of the movie. It's like, no, they're all off doing their own thing. I cannot praise the action in this enough. Like, yo, those like action set pieces were freaking phenomenal, especially Harley. Like, because I've like outside of like video games, I've never really seen Harley fight. Dude, it was sick. The way she kind of takes like the gymnastic approach to her fighting is nuts. Like the cartwheels, the kicks, like using weapons and stuff like that, getting excited, having that bat, doing some damage. That poor bastard who got his legs broken. He had tried to kick her, she broke his leg, took his other leg, broke it this way, broke it that way. That was nuts. Literally people in the audience are like, even I was like, whoa. And even I could hear other people in the theater going, having that same expression when she broke. I didn't expect that. And kind of just showing you like the level of violence in this movie. Black Mask literally getting that dude's face cut. I was like, oh my God. I was like, that was my first oh my God of the movie. Like, oh my, because I wasn't expecting that. That was interesting. Side note, just because it was sticking in the back of my head, the actress who, like, you know, Black Mask was like, who's laughing, get on a table and dance. Bojana is her name. I'm going to forget her last name, but she was Lizzie in a, you know, sadly short-lived show on CBS called Instinct. I was like, hey, Lizzie! I got giddy about that. I was like, holy crap, it was so cool to see her in this. But it also shows you kind of who Black Mask is, because even at one point he's gonna let the girl live. Like he killed the dad, killed the mom, got to the girl, and I gotta let you go. Wait, is that a snot bubble? Ew, that's gross, disgusting. All right, the fact of the matter is, but it also shows you like who he is towards females. It seems like he gets really, like, for whatever reason, he kind of borderlines is a woman hater. Like he gets pissed off. It's like he was in a bad mood and then he heard Erica laughing and it's like, what is she laughing at? It's like, you kind of snapped on her for no reason, getting her dancing up there, getting the guy she's with to like cut her dress off. I was like, wow, you were really out there, Black Mask. That's nuts. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, the only person we've seen, like the only lady he has a good relationship with is Black Canary, but you can make the argument, it's like, oh, that's just because like she's kind of with him. Once again, that's his caged bird, so he kind of treats her right, because he's showing off all the heads and stuff like that. And I love that Zaz kind of gets annoyed, but he's like, why are you gushing over her so much? Come on, like, you know, because it's like, I'm your right-hand guy. I'm the one that handles so much for you. It's like, he needs me, he doesn't need you type of situation. I also appreciate that they did bring up the whole, like, Zaz's whole thing. They referenced it in the movie, but obviously, like, if you're unaware, like, Zaz's whole thing is he cuts himself. Each cut on his body is a victim that he's killed. I think women is his shtick. I think so. I could be wrong, but they reference it in the movie, but I think in general, they're his thing. Like those are the particular people he goes after, because he talks about like all the birds he set free or something like that. What I also appreciate about this movie is what it kind of does for Harley, even though she's kind of this crazy girl, because like literally everyone gonna references how crazy she is, which she is. But I thought it was kind of interesting that this movie was able to humanize her, and you know, not necessarily in the same way in like the movie. I'm not trying to compare apples and oranges to like the whole Joker thing. That kind of tried to humanize him, obviously not trying to like justify, but kind of humanize him. This kind of humanizes Harley to make you realize like, oh, like the fact of the matter is she's just kind of lacking a little self-worth, because she kind of lost who she was because she got so wrapped up in Joker. It was all about him. She kind of fell to the wayside. And just once again, that speech that's in the trailer, the whole Harley Quinn speech, that's actually heartbreaking. And you know, it's like, I think it resonated with Dino, whether she really would admit it or not. Like the whole like, oh, like a Harley Quinn serves their master, and outside of that, they could give two fucks about us. And you know, and it was also interesting because like apparently she was the first person that Harley told about the breakup with Joker. And it's like, oh, you confided in almost like a complete stranger about that. That was interesting. Because like she did, it was almost interesting because we did see her kind of party. Well, like the whole, what is that called? Like the whole roller derby, right? Isn't that what that called? Yeah, on the skates and everything. It was kind of pretty interesting seeing her on the field and everything, kicking ass. But also the lady she was going out with drinks with, they're talking about, oh my god, she's eventually going to go back to Joker. It's like a breakup, it's not going to last forever. And it'd be like, oh, next alpha male that comes around her, she's going to immediately. And it's like, oh, you kind of felt like, oh, the mean girls were picking on Harley. Like that's what I mean. They humanized her in a very interesting way, and that's why she blew up Ace Chemicals, just to be like, once again, her middle finger. But that was also an announcement. At the time, she acts like she's thinking everything through, but she didn't. And the fact of the matter is, that's what put her target on her back, because it's like, oh, she blew up Ace Chemicals. That must be a middle finger to the Joker. Even Montoya quickly picked up on that. But I also like the fact that there's a lot of times Harley will be saying something in like the monologue, the voiceover, and then she'll respond to it. Where it's like, oh man, this guy who makes the sandwiches, oh, he's the best. What I said is true. Like you said that first part in your head, and then everything else was. So I like that level of crazy that is Harley. I really appreciate it. I thought it was really interesting, like what they ended up doing, setting her and Cassandra up with the whole like, oh, being buddies and stuff like that. I thought that was such a fascinating thing. Or for one, you breaking her out of prison. Trying to get the jewel back for Black Mask. And I thought that was such an interesting scene too, where it's like, I guess that was like her dealing with like the torture, like he was smacking her around, and she gets kind of like Harley handling things her way, kind of goes, I guess that was kind of her safe space to kind of get away from it, was like, you know, that little dancing tune, and then they kind of smack her out of it again, so. But the fact is, I didn't expect her and Cassandra to, like, you saw bits of it in the trailer, but I didn't realize like they were going to get all buddy like that. And you know, it's like Harley trying to teach her, because like, you know, Cassandra's like, you know, like, how do I become someone like you? And then literally Harley breaks down her whole situation. It's like, yeah, you gotta break out and then you get you gotta fall in love with one of your patients, then you break him out, then you get arrested by the Batman, and then you get out, but then you end up with the bomb in your neck. Like I said, she listed off all that stuff, you know, so I thought that was interesting. Even that whole thing about, what was his name? The dude that she stays at his place, and he was like, oh, what was it, my lily flower or something he calls Harley, and it's like, literally the one person in Gotham who likes her, who has no grievances. And I love that being a thing, kind of the fourth wall thing of like, all right, why do these particular people hate me? It's like, oh, this particular guy, it's because his brother, I fed him to that, to Bruce, my hyena, which that was also her way to kind of, you know, fill that hole in her, you know, after the breakup with Joker. There's also that thing with Montoya, kind of a little background in her situation, is obviously her ex being, you know, what was it, the DA or whatever, which, side note, her ex was played by Ali Wong. I lost my mind because at first I was in the theater, I was like, when she's first talking to her captain, and Ali was beside her, I was like, is that freaking Ali Wong? I was like, dude, that's nuts. That's so cool. Which is kind of shitty. I mean, it's just that thing of like, because like Montoya was constantly trying to prove herself, the fact of the matter, she's just like, give me this one opportunity and let Black Mask be my means of taking down another bad guy. You know, she felt like she had something to prove to not only everyone else, but kind of to herself. And she was kind of, you know, using her ex's position as a means to kind of like, "I'll get that done," but that ultimately her ex kind of sells her out to her captain, and he's like suspends her, and it's like, that's so shitty. And it, you know, her ex kind of feels bad about it because she's like, "But you kind of left me no choice and everything." So Montoya was going to just kind of drink until, like, obviously, like, Canary hit her up about, like, yo, it's all going down here. Kind of circling back to, like, the whole Harley and Cassandra thing. It's actually kind of, because for Harley, it's like she felt like, you know, it's like, oh, it was, you know, it felt good to be around, you know, Cassandra. Like, she didn't expect it to be as good as it was, but it was kind of fun having kind of a partner in crime and everything. I also thought it was interesting though watching Looney Tunes stuff. But to be fair, this is a Warner Brothers property, so I think they can skate away with doing stuff like that. But it's stuff like that always makes me wonder, like, you may be able to watch that on TV. Is it because it's a Warner Brother property you don't have to worry about it? You got free license to do that? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe there's still a whole thing within it. But it's like, for Harley, it's like, oh wait, the people, they found my house. The only reason why they found it out because the dude who I thought was so nice to me, who was the only person I can really rely on, ended up betraying me, because for him it's like, you know, they offered me too much money. It's like, you know, it's just business, and that's what set it off in Harley's mind of like, we just got to look after ourselves. Like everyone's out for themselves, so why am I spending so much time being worried about this kid? I'm gonna just trade this kid for my own freedom. The fact of the matter is, when you actually think about it in the grand scheme of things, so much went down in that final act that, like, when everything kind of really went down, like, the fact of the matter is, like, we got Black Mask putting on the black. He had it on in like one scene earlier. It was kind of a flashback showing like him being the bad guy, well, the bad guy that he is. But then it's not until at the very end that he puts it on. I'm like, all right, it's time to get serious, because he got upset because of Black Canary's betrayal. I should also note that I do love that literally a plot point of this movie was to basically get Cassandra to shit out the diamond. To be fair, other people wanted to gut her, but it was obviously Harley's idea. She even like duct tapes her to the toilet. So, I mean, because obviously no one finds out until, you know, Zaz sees like the, what was it, like the prune juice or something, and it's like, oh, that's why you're on the toilet. And even it's like, oh, so that's what this is all about. You know, it took Black Canary a little while to piece it together, like, oh, okay. But I just love that that's legitimately a plot point. I should also note, because I know some people had concerns because they were like, I don't know, Harley being the hero and stuff like that. It's like, no, she's not the hero. She's just, this was legitimately all for the purpose of survival. It's kind of like she ended up being the hero in the grand scheme of things, but, you know, it was her looking out for herself as well as other people. I mean, because she ends up apologizing to Cassandra later on, because it's like, oh yeah, I did betray you, I didn't mean to. I also really love that bit at the end where Huntress, it's like, oh, what's up with you and this, like, bow and everything. She's not, it's like, it's not a bow and arrow, it's a crossbow. I'm not 12 years old or something like that. I don't know if this is what they were going for, but I couldn't help but get Arrow vibes in a more comedic sense. It's just kind of like, she's trying to look so badass and everything, and it's just kind of like, because she's so awkward. I mean, like, I guess because, you know, she's been so focused on revenge, she never really worked on her personality too much, so she's just a very awkward person, just like, yeah, like her responses are so stilted, and I love it. But she's kind of like, you know, and obviously, you know, it's in the trailer too, but Black Canary making fun of her, like, oh, she's got anger. And she's like, I don't have anger. And she's just like, oh, look at this one. And, you know, Harley being like, you know, vengeance rarely gives us the satisfaction we want. All right, so are we going to focus on the bad guys that are coming after us? I love the fact that the Joker had taken all of her weapons, and what did she call it? I forgot what she called him, which is also kind of sucky that he ended up taking all her weapons. I did skip over it, but I do like the fact is we did kind of see a more sillier side of the Joker in this movie, because like the guy that came after him, because they tattooed like clown makeup on his face. I wonder if that's supposed to be like a wink and nod to the Joker movie, just because it looks more similar to his makeup in the Joker movie. But I mean, that, like I said, I'm most likely reading just too much into it. I just thought it was interesting. But the fact of the matter is, because she was even like, why are you coming after me? That was him. It's like, yeah, but you dared him to. And it's like, you know, you dare people to do stuff all the time. So I just thought that was kind of neat. But even with all her weapons taken, they found others. Everyone got locked and loaded and ready for like the final big brawl. And like I said, I mean, action in general was great, but I really liked that final like confrontation of taking out all those dudes. I even love at one point Black Canary's like, when did she have time to put on, because like Harley's rolling around on skates, it's like, when the hell did she have time to do that? I even love the bit where they're looking through the chest, and then there's her, top from Suicide Squad, and it's like, oh no, give me that. So she's still holding on to some of that stuff. But also I love that you do see her, like, the corset she has from, like, her traditional costume, and she's like, oh, it's good for your boobs and everything. And luckily Montoya is wearing it later on because it's bulletproof. I was almost like, oh crap, like, how are they gonna handle the whole Montoya getting shot? Oh, never mind, she's wearing that. So I love that whole situation. I even love the whole, like, chase sequence on the roller skates and everything. It was pretty badass. Hunter's coming with the bike and, like, she's riding on it. And even that point where she's, like, rolling backwards, like Huntress is pushing her forward with the bike and she's, like, going like that backwards and then flips. It's just like that whole, like, chase sequence is so badass. But also when it comes down to it, Harley is going after Cassandra, and I love that whole, kind of the thing from the trailer. It's such a powerful speech of, like, they think they should be afraid of Mr. J, but it's me they should be afraid of because I'm Harley fucking Quinn. I'm like, yeah! And then she proceeded to, waste her one bullet. And it's like, oh, it's not really him, but it's like, I'm sorry, I stole something else from you. I was like, oh, look at you, you little turd, always stealing something from me. Ended up being a grenade. Didn't see that death. I mean, I knew Cassandra had the grenades, which I know, I keep going back to it because I'm thinking about that action sequence. It's, dude, like, literally everyone, like, sliding, Cassandra around as everyone's fighting. Harley using the damn mallet. The fact of the matter is, Huntress going hand to hand while also using the crossbow. Montoya, because earlier when she was fighting Harley, had used, like, her cuffs as, like, brass knuckles. She now has brass knuckles and her got a baton, so she's switching between the two. I'm like, dude, this is sick. And they're just, like, passing Cassandra out of the way and proceeding to kick some serious ass. It's so dope, dude. I love it. But nevertheless, Cassandra having a grenade on him and, Black Mass exploding. I was like, oh, so I guess there's no, I mean, depending on how they handle things, there's not going to be any Black Mass going forward, so we just kill him. But I'm like, I'm kind of fine with it. It's cool. It'd be cool to see other villains pop up again, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm kind of fine with, like, the fact that you're willing to kill villains. I've kind of accepted that Marvel and DC like to do that, and I'm totally fine with that. Some cases they do, some cases they don't, but I thought that was so interesting, and it's like, oh, they saved the day. And love that the fact of the matter is they're actually kicking it and partying after all of this, I didn't even talk about, because I love that scene where it's just kind of like Harley crying near the beginning of the movie. Like, understanding the context is because she lost her egg sandwich, which obviously Margot Robbie's actually recently talked about, because I saw her episode of Hot Ones where she actually talked about, like, I think chicken eggs actually, they give her migraines or something, so they actually had to use, like, I forgot what it was. It was like, it was some other type of eggs for the egg sandwich. That was kind of floating in the back of my mind while I was watching the movie. Just a little interesting detail I just thought was kind of, flowing through my head. But nevertheless, I love that that's what that scene of her crying like that was about, because she lost her egg sandwich, because it's like, oh, she was so, it's like, oh, that one thing that she lost. But to be fair, her and Cassandra have theirs at the end. But it's like, even Montoya, but, like, at the end of the day, it's like, honestly, you did a great thing, Harley. Like, the fact is, I kind of had you all wrong. It's like I said, Harley had her moment being a hero, but then she immediately bolts with Cassandra, and that is what I didn't expect. I mean, I was curious, because I almost halfway expected Montoya to arrest her later on, but I mean, to be fair, she wasn't there on official business. But sadly, we see with Montoya's situation, she gets no respect, because the fact of the matter is, her former partner, now captain, takes all the glory for it again. Side note, that actor, recently saw him most recently in Lock and Key. He's in a little bit of Lock and Key, so I just think it's interesting, another comic book thing he was in, so I just thought that was kind of fascinating. But nevertheless, Montoya doesn't, once again, she's done trying to prove herself, so it's like, she know what she did, and she doesn't need a GCPD, so it's interesting to see her kind of walking away from it. I mean, to be fair, she put so much time into the place, and it's just not worth it, so she can do more good outside of it. So we see that she is with the Birds of Prey. She's with Huntress and Black Canary kicking ass, because they do such good work together when it comes to saving Gotham, because they know eventually some other criminal scum is going to try and fill that void that Black Mask has left. But I didn't expect the whole Harley and Cassandra going, you know, off in the sunset type of situation, sailing into Jewel, and ended up, you know, Harley's going into business. What was it, like, badass motherfucker is on her business card and everything. It's kind of neat to see that Harley is kind of going out on her own. Is she going to be a villain going forward? Is she going to be anti-heroish? Who cares? It's titles. Harley's going to be Harley. She's going to do her, you know. But it's kind of neat, because obviously if you're unaware, and it's something I've talked about before, I only know this because I've just stumbled across stuff because I was like wondering who Cassandra Cain is. She picks up the moniker of Batgirl at one point in time, like, but eventually she becomes her own like version of Batgirl. I think her character's name is Orphan, I want to say is her name. So it's just kind of interesting to know that Harley is kicking it with a future a family, a person connected to the Bat family. So it's just kind of like, oh, it's interesting. But like the fact that she's kicking it with Harley, Harley's kind of like her bestie, kind of role model-ish character. So it's kind of interesting what kind of influence that's going to have on her in this universe. It's just, you know, so it's kind of fun to think about that type of stuff. Because it's also interesting to think about what this means for Harley going into the Suicide Squad. It's kind of the sequel / soft reboot of the Suicide Squad. Once again, they reference it in this movie that the Suicide Squad happened, so it's not like all that crazy thing that never happened. It's like, no, it happened. We just don't know how she went from point A to point B. I'm assuming Joker got it out, so on and so forth. But we do know that Margot Robbie is in the Suicide Squad, so I'm curious to see where Harley's story at the end of this is going to lead to her. And because then some stuff it says she wasn't going to be in it a lot, maybe a little bit, who knows. But I'm very interested to see not just this, but also like where Birds of Prey means going forward. Because obviously Harley, it's like, oh yeah, like the girls, they can do that whole thing. It's like, oh, they call themselves the Birds of Prey, but I forgot what she called them. She was mocking. But like I said, overall, I really love this. I love this movie, legitimately. And the fact of the matter is, it makes me so excited to see what is next for Harley in this continuity. Whatever they do, whatever, you know, the connected cinematic universe thing is, or whether it's just a solo, like what that is. Hopefully we're going to get us a Gotham Sirens thing, so we got to get us some, like, you know, Poison Ivy and Catwoman in this, you know. Obviously that also depends on like how the whole Batman situation shakes out, considering they're going to use Catwoman. But you know, I'm interested, because that was always one of those things that was slated, was a Gotham Sirens movie. So I'm curious to see what that would mean, especially if she's kicking it with Cassandra, you know, what that would mean in the grand scheme of things. But also like the Birds of Prey going forward, you know, Montoya, Huntress, and Canary, what that means for them, you know. Also, I do love that the movie ends on a happy note of like, don't worry, Bruce is okay. That was also something I was curious about. Like, I was wondering if she had the hyenas beforehand. It's like, no, she got the hyena after she broke up with the Joker. So I was wondering about that. But also the thing is, she typically has 2 hyenas, so I guess she hasn't gotten the second one yet. So she's only got Bruce for right now. So it's nice to like, oh, he's okay, he's safe, he's fine. And it's like, oh, that's good, because it almost seemed like, oh, I was like, oh, that'd be depressing if he actually blew up, you know, at her place when it got blown up. So, like I said, I'm very interested to see what the next chapter is for everyone in this regard, you know. So now I'm sitting here also thinking about it too, that it's not only Black Mask that got removed from the equation, so did Victor Zsasz, so that's interesting. Yeah, I'm done talking. To the next time, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.